Make sure that your name and contact info is easy to find. Yes, it's going to be a little redundant to have it at the top of the first page and in the footer. Who cares? Make sure that they can get a hold of you. You do want to consider where this is going when you are putting in your contact information. For instance, on your website, you might just list your email rather than also including your telephone number and your physical address. The next block is the born in area. This is actually a convention that Shishi galleries have started adopting from art history. When we're creating a cataloged résumé, we would then state where they were born and their years of life. In this case, you are not going to ever list your date of birth, but you could list where you come from, or you could equally have something like lives in, works in. There are two considerations. One, does it make you look cool? If you were born in Australia and you're now working in America, yeah, list that because it makes you seem cool. The other big consideration is, how can I fill up some space when I'm first starting out? And look, not only do I get the line, but I also get the returns above and below it. Maybe delete it when you don't think you need it anymore. Under education, go ahead and list every college that you attended, even if you didn't graduate. So if you started at Ames Community College, go ahead and list that. If you achieved your associate's degree at Ames, then instead of saying BA and what the degree is in the year, you're going to say AA. Go ahead and list all of your degrees in reverse chronological order, starting with the most recent. So if you have come back to school and gotten a BFA, but you also have a French degree from 5 years ago, you list them both. If you haven't yet graduated, list the year you anticipate that you will graduate, and then just write anticipated. List study abroad or other interesting programs that you've done if you think it will make you look good, especially if it's art related. For example, a billion years ago when I went to college, my 3D design teacher was also the performance artist on campus. And her resume listed not only her degree, but also her certificate from a welding school, which was kind of a cool thing for her to show. One, because it's just kind of a cool thing, but two, it would probably answer some of the questions people might have about whether or not a performance artist was able to teach 3D design. You're going to list your achievements as an artist in reverse chronological order. You're going to let me know if something hasn't happened yet, that it's scheduled or forthcoming. Sometimes it's tricky to know exactly what gets its own category on your resume, and there will be certain categories that are going to be a hodgepodge. You can usually list those as other activity as artist. If you have 3 of the same kind of activity, it can have its own category. You get 3 grants, make a section for grants. You get 3 solo shows, list those separately. While you're waiting to get to the third one, do make sure that it's clear what everything is. If you're still listing selected exhibitions, including both group and solo shows, be sure to indicate the solo shows. Give them an asterisk, note that they're solo in parentheses at the end, in some way indicate it, because it's a different kind of achievement to put together a body of work. Using tables will allow you to make sure that you're consistent with your indentations and your margins. We've got a column for the years. We're going to list all of the things that happened in that year in the next column over without repeating the year every single time. Part of the reason for this is that we want to keep it as easy to scan as possible. You want to be able to have somebody look over your resume in a split second. When listing things, there are 2 conventions. One is to list the title of the show, usually in either bold or italics or quote marks or underlines. Pick a convention and stick with it. List the title of the show, then the venue, the name of the gallery. If it's something that's on a campus, for instance, you might actually have a really long venue listing. If you showed at the Kerfman Gallery at the Laurie Student Center on Colorado State University's Fort Collins campus, you could list almost all of that information. You probably don't need to say Fort Collins in the venue, because one of the other things you're going to do is tell me the city and the state at the end of the listing. The other convention is to list the venue first. I actually kind of like this because I care a lot more about where you're showing than the particular name of the show. Just be consistent with whichever method you choose. And you also want to make sure that you're consistent with details like punctuation. So if you're going to list venue, period, title, period, city, comma, state, period, make sure that you keep all of your listings that way. It's really easy to miss a comma or a period. Spend a little bit of time proofreading. Some of you are going to have solo exhibitions, and some of you are going to, throughout your career, have many more one- and two-person exhibitions. Especially if you make small work or are a 3D artist, you'll often be paired with another artist to help fill the gallery space. You still had to put together a cohesive body of work for that exhibition, and therefore you should list it as equal to a solo exhibition, even if there was somebody else on the walls. Group exhibitions or selected group exhibitions, however you wish to say it, you're going to go ahead and list all those things where more than just two of you were showing. You're also going to see that a lot of artists will split out juried exhibitions as a separate category. This is really carrying over a convention for how we have to document things at university teaching positions, where in some cases juried exhibitions are seen as the equivalent of peer-reviewed articles, or in some cases they're considered lesser than other kinds of group exhibitions. Unless you work at one of those schools that tells you to do that, don't do that. Just go ahead and list them with your group exhibitions. What you do want to take advantage of, though, is listing the juror. Hey, that's an extra line. I'm filling space. But mostly because probably they got to be the juror because they're art cool in some way. The student exhibition on campus will be juried by somebody who runs a gallery or is an assistant curator down in Denver. Go ahead and list them, their name, their job, and where they work after the listing of the city and state.